Oh, howdy all, grab yourself a beer, it's time for some Path of Exile discussion. Today, I wanted to talk about the upcoming Echoes of the Atlas content that's going to be added to the game in about 8 days' time. There was a major live stream this morning where Path of Exile developer Chris Wilson went through a whole lot of this in detail, and I'll provide a link to watch that video. It goes for more than half an hour. I'm going to try and condense this down a lot, but I'm not going to cover everything. I'm putting up a separate video that's going to talk very quickly about my thoughts about two of the other things that were revealed here. The Elementalist Overhaul, which I'm really excited by, and the Ritual Challenge League. So, Echoes of the Atlas introduces a new overarching end boss. Much in the same way that Cyrus, the Awakener of Worlds, as well as his minions Veritania, Baran, Drox, and Alhesman were introduced in the Conquerors of the Atlas expansion a year ago. Echoes of the Atlas is going to introduce the Maven. The Maven is this league's Cirrus, essentially. And I really like the way that they're integrating her into mapping. So all of the Conquerors of the Atlas content remains, and will be essentially in the same format that it used to be. But once you start getting to, I believe, yellow maps, that's the implication from the video, the Maven will sometimes pop in to say hello when you're fighting a map boss. If you played during the Atlas of Worlds era, this will be like the Shaper appearing in your map boss fights sometimes. Once you've had the Maven randomly appear once, you can then summon her when you're running a map. And when you summon her, that will cause her to appear and basically make the boss fight harder. Once you've done a few of these harder versions of map bosses, the Maven will then enable you to fight all of those bosses at once in an arena that is constrained in space. So this is the arena that you may have seen with a Celestial Nebula tile set and with what looked like a massive map device with all of these spheres around it. Essentially, these are captured bosses. Early on, you'll fight 3 bosses at once. Beat them, you'll be able to fight 4. Beat them, you'll be able to fight 5. Beat them, you'll be able to fight 6. Beat them, and you will gain access to fighting 10 bosses at a time. So it looks like you will have an endgame cycle where you will be running 10 maps in the same region. Once you've done those 10 maps in the same region and basically bottled up their bosses, then at that point you'll be able to do one of the Maven's 10 boss fights, do these a bunch of times, and then you'll be able to challenge the Maven herself. Apparently the Maven herself is a genuinely difficult fight, which I would not be surprised by, and she has a couple of unique rewards. So this is the artwork that they've given for the Maven. Kind of looks really amazing with that sort of source of power behind her. Anyways, we'll have to see how the actual Maven fight works out in play. So this is just more discussing the details of how the fights will work. One thing that's very important is that some map bosses are mechanically more and less difficult than others. Some of them have arena-specific things, and a lot of these are going to end up having, this system is going to have significant effects on the way that you are going to prioritize running maps. So for instance, there's a number of map bosses that have very, very, very easy attacks to dodge, and there are also ones that have very lethal attacks that can fire, that, for instance, you don't want to get away from, you don't want to be off screen from that boss because they have some sort of really nasty mechanic. A number of bosses have mechanics that will be truly deadly in the context of an arena that's not their own. The ones that come to mind here are the Goddess of Justice. So this is the map boss that's based upon Azaro's Mirage Archer type figure. She has a beam that until you break line of sight, deals escalating damage to you over time. As well as the Goddess of Justice, there is, I believe it's called Shock and Horror, the Mineral Pools boss. These are going to be terrifying to encounter outside their native arena, because I don't think you can block line of sight to them. And that's a big thing about the Maven content. It seems like playing line of sight shenanigans is not going to be possible with it. So the big thing that you will get for engaging with the Maven is these Atlas passive trees, and these are really interesting. These give an identity to each octant of the Atlas. So you see here that Glenat Cans has an Ascendancy passive tree, essentially. What this lets you do is focus on certain things. Now, I think for Glenart Cans, there is a correct choice and there are wrong choices. I think the correct choice is going to be to focus on the Beyond tree and to focus on the Incursion trees. The reason for that is just the incredibly powerful synergy between Beyond and Incursion, where the increased amount of Beyond demons spawning inside Incursions just means that there's going to be a monstrously large amount of monsters to kill. And so I don't think that the Legion side or the Strongbox side can compete with that. I could very well be wrong, though. That's just my initial thoughts. Additionally, really powerful, this contested development mod that affects your incursions is incredibly strong. What this means is that let's say that you've got a level 2 fire room, and then the other architect that's available is the corruption chamber. If you killed the level 2 fire architect, those two levels sort of carry over, and so you already have a completed tier 3 corruption chamber. So this is really, really, really strong. Additionally, killing non-resident architects in areas has a 50% chance to add an additional upgrade tier. So that means that if you don't kill... Sorry, if you have a tier 1 room, you have a 50% chance of leapfrogging over tier 2 to tier 3. So essentially, if you take these incursion wings, you will be getting a lot of corruption chambers. Additionally, cultural advancement seems pretty impactful as well, upgrading all of the normal monsters to magic. So this is really strong. I think that some of the other zones, it's less clear what's going to be the best choices. So, we're just going to have to see. Hopefully, they've been pretty well balanced, but I do think that Glenart Cans, there's a clear best choice. Now, there's a number of new endgame rewards. These craftable Watchstones are a big upgrade from the quest Watchstones that we get. These are permanent items, and they just have small effects, but they are still meaningful, like 3% increased effect of modifiers on non-unique maps. These are going to be really meaningful, and you're going to want to essentially, ultimately, replace all of your quest Watchstones with these, but they're not something that you'll get access to for a long time. So essentially, the implication that I got from the live stream is that encountering, like, they're basically getting access to these ascendancy trees in all 8 octants of the Atlas will be a comparable amount of time to getting your awakening level to 8. But getting access to these Watchstones will be something that will start at awakening level 8 and will be a new tier of advancement beyond that. There is also the Maven's Orb. This is a really cool new way of crafting items. Essentially, it lets you upgrade influence modifiers beyond normal limits. Really interested to see what all of the upgraded versions of these are, these elevated modifiers, particularly for some of the most powerful mods like the Crusader Exploding mod. So we're just going to have to see that in practice. This here, for instance, has the increased life recovery rate mod, which is beyond normal limits. But it's not a very strong example. There are much stronger examples than this. The way that the Maven Orb works is that your item, in order for the Maven's Orb to be used, your item needs to have at least 2 influence modifiers on it. It appears that it picks 2 of the influence modifiers at random. One of them goes +1 tier, the other one goes away. And if the +1 tier takes it beyond the normal limits, then it will have a new Maven Orb exclusive mod added onto the item. There's a bunch of new maps that are based upon Path of Exile 2 tilesets, I believe, and looking forward to seeing these in practice. We don't know whether these are replacing maps or whether they are augmenting the existing map pool. We'll just have to find that out. Ritual League, that's its own video, although I'm only briefly touching on it for the moment. And then there's a whole bunch of changes to Ascendancies. I discussed the Elementalist in the other video, but there's a bunch of just small mechanical changes to everything, but a massive overhaul of the Deadeye, the Inquisitor, and the Elementalist. Next up, there are some really cool divination cards. like Fateful Meeting and Acclimatization, which will be things that people will really want to see. There's a couple of new skill gems and a bunch of new unique items. Gonna need to give a lot of thought to these. Not just rush out a video on how to use these items, but put some serious thought into them. Harvest is back in a less powerful form than before, but something that is, broadly speaking, still recognizable as what it used to be. When we'll just have to find out how that plays. There's not much information as yet. Heist, the blueprint splitting is being nerfed. Fracturing blueprints is also being nerfed. Currency rewards are being nerfed. And ideally, I think that the position I want to see Heist in is one where running Heist is something that people do if they enjoy the content, like I do, and something that people skip if they don't enjoy it. That's the spot that I want it to see it be put into. That's what they're going for. We'll see where you go. And then, of course, they've got the supporter packs, which the light palette one is really impressive. Anyways, I'm going to leave it there. That's my initial thoughts on the content, initial sort of thoughts on the Maven content. But I will then definitely be looking a lot at some of the build implications of some of these changes at a later time.